De Leon, Dusanier, Dutton, Emerson, Evans, Fuller, Gaines, Hancock, Harmon, Hernandez, Huff, Kehoe, Lamalfa, Leno, Ted Lieu, Carol Liu, Lowenthal, Negrete McLeod, Padilla, Pavley, Price, Rubio, Runner, Smidian, Steinberg, Strickland, Vargas, Walters, Wolk, Wright, Weiland, Yee.
Members, we are absent a quorum. Sergeants, I would ask you to contact the absent members and bring them to the chamber. Members, good morning. A quorum is present. And would the members and our guests be on the rail and in the gallery please rise? We will be led in prayer this morning by our guest chaplain, our special guest chaplain. And she is pastor of Valley Ministries Metropolitan Community Church in Stockton. the Reverend Terry Miller. As you may know, members, June is Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Pride Month in California and really across the country. Reverend Miller is head of a LGBT congregation in Stockton, the Metropolitan Community Church, and she's also the spouse of Senate staffer Marilyn Miller of the Travel Office, who's in the back. So please welcome Terry Miller to the podium to lead us in prayer. And there it is.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Let us join together for a moment of silence for those who have been excluded from experiencing an all-inclusive God. El Shaddai, creator of all, we join this day seeking your guidance and your wisdom in the decisions that must be made. I pray, God, that you would be with our senators and staff as they work toward shaping liberty and justice for all, making liberty and justice more than just words that are spoken. I pray that their actions will be actions that include rather than divide, build up instead of tear down, and bring unity instead of division. Remind them that they represent all peoples from every race, every religion, and every walk of life, even those who are questioning who they are. Teach us, Almighty God, to rise above our own limitations and create a state that is big enough for those with whom we may differ. We ask blessings and encouragement along the way, knowing that the journey traveled may not be the same as the journey you challenge us to live today. We ask this and pray in your many names. Amen.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Senator Leno.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Miller. That's great. Privileges of the floor, members. We are at privileges of the floor. We will, seeing none, we'll move on to messages from the governor. Will be deemed read. Messages from the assembly will also be deemed read. Reports of committees will be deemed read and amendments adopted. Members, we're at motions and resolutions. Any motions or resolutions this morning? Seeing none, we will go to consideration of the daily file. And members, we are starting at file item 11 this morning, the Senate third reading file. Senator Leno, are you prepared for item 11? Thank you. We'll pass on that item. Senator De Leon, file item 12. Pass. Senator Evans, file item 13. We'll take that up then. The Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 444 by Senator Evans, enacting the land use.
Senator Evans.
Thank you, Madam President. This comes back up before us today again on reconsideration. We were close yesterday, but not quite close enough. This is the bill that relates to mobile home park conversions. And again, I want to be very clear. All it does is allow the local authority, whether that's the Board of Supervisors or the City Council, to consider the opinion of the actual residents of the mobile home park in determining whether or not to approve an application to condominiumize the park. And it also makes clear that that conversions are subject to other state laws, such as the California Coastal Act. I ask for an aye vote.
Debate or discussion, members? Any debate? Seeing none, then the Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist, aye. Anderson, no. Berryhill, Blakesley, Calderon, Canella, Corbett, aye. Correa, De Leon, DeSaulnier, Dutton, Emerson, Evans, aye. Fuller, no. Gaines, Hancock, Harmon, no. Hernandez, no. Huff, Kehoe, aye. LaMalfa, no. Leno, I. Ted Lieu. Carol Lieu. Lowenthal. I. Negrete McLeod. Padilla. I. Pavley. Price. Rubio. Runner. Smidian. Steinberg. I. Strickland. No. Vargas. Walters. No. Wolk. Wright. Wyland. Yee. Smitty and I.
Call the absent members.
Berryhill. Blakesley. Calderon. Canella. Correa. De Leon. DeSaulnier. Dutton. Emerson. Gaines. No. Hancock. Huff. Ted Lieu. Carol Lieu. Negrete McLeod. Pavley. Price. Pavley, aye. Price, aye. Rubio. Runner. Vargas. Wolk. Wright. Wyland. Yee.
Call the absent members.
Berryhill. Blakesley. Calderon. Canella. Correa. Calderon, no. Canella. Correa. De Leon. DeSaulnier. DeSaulnier, aye. Dutton. No. Emerson. Hancock. Aye. Huff. Ted Lieu. Carol Lieu. Negrete McLeod. Rubio. Runner. Vargas. Wolk. Wright. Wyland. Wyland, no. Yee.
Senator Evans moves a call. We'll give the Secretary a vocal rest. Item 14, Senator Leno, the Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 184 by Senator Leno, enacting the land use.
Senator Leno.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, this bill does not blaze any new ground. It simply restores a decades-long ability for local governments to be able to implement inclusionary zoning programs, which is a local zoning tool that have recently been thrown into doubt as a result of a California court case known as Palmer. I want to be very respectful here. I'm not here to debate rent control or debate inclusionary zoning ordinances. We all bring our own opinions to the floor today. What I am here to suggest is that we as a body should make the decision to just take us back to where we were the day before the Palmer decision. For many decades, inclusionary zoning ordinances, of which there have been over 100 in California, along with rent control, have existed harmoniously side by side. And the opposition would suggest that there is no difference between rent control and inclusionary zoning ordinances, and that inclusionary zoning is just rent control by another name. But that is clearly not the case. We all understand that rent control is meant to keep folks in their homes at the time when there are extraordinary spikes in rental costs, and they impact everybody in the entire local jurisdiction. Inclusionary zoning is a zoning tool. It's discretionary. A city or county may enact one, it may not, and when it does, it doesn't include everybody as a rent control ordinance would. It's specifically for a percentage of new units in a new project. And its design was, of course, to be able to include everybody in a local jurisdiction so that people don't get priced out as we continue to develop what last remaining lands may exist in a local jurisdiction. So again, these ordinances have existed side by side with rent control for many decades. Again, the opposition would suggest that Costa-Hawkins, and this was the Palmer decision, prevents local use of inclusionary zoning ordinances. But if you go back to Costa-Hawkins when it was originally written, and we've done so, and in fact the committee analysis very clearly points out, there was absolutely no mention of inclusionary zoning in the bill or in the analysis of the bill. And we can debate back and forth what the intent was, but I think we can all agree as authors of legislation that when we want something to be included, we state it. We don't leave it to be ambiguous. We call it out, we draw it out if that's the intent of where we want our impact of our bill to be. The authors of Costa-Hawkins clearly did not do that. I did author the San Francisco inclusionary zoning ordinance, and I learned something very interesting in that process. We brought all the stakeholders to the table, the affordable housing advocates, the for-profit developers, the not-for-profit developers, advocates for parks and for seniors and for bicyclists. And what I learned as the developers worked with us, the for-profit developers worked with us on the ordinance and then supported our ordinance, is that they didn't oppose the requirement, the mandate of the inclusionary zoning ordinance. What they did oppose was the uncertainty without knowing up front what the requirement would be. So a developer could work for literally 3, 4, 5 years on a project only to be told at the very end of that process by the local planning commission, oh, by the way, 15% of your units will be affordable. And that's what killed projects. They could live with and have lived with the inclusionary zoning requirement. And for anyone to suggest that this will impair building or slow down building in California, let me just point out that with over 150 inclusionary zoning ordinances throughout the state of California in the past decade, when we saw the biggest building boom in the history of the state, they existed side by side. Nothing slowed down all of that housing growth, which amounted finally to a bubble, which we're now paying the price for. But there was no problem with the existence of those inclusionary zoning ordinances. And I do want to point out who's not opposed to this bill, and that would be the California Apartment Association. And the California Apartment Association, which is the largest trade association, it represents over 50,000 independent apartment owners and property managers statewide, as well as the top 25 developers most impacted by the bill, who are members of the California Apartment Association. They do not oppose this bill for all the reasons I've just described. So I would ask for your aye vote.
Discussion, members. Senator Dutton.
Yeah, members, I'm going to rise in opposition to this bill for some what I consider to be pretty common sense reasons. You know, when you're building a home, there's a lot of things that add to the price of a house. Your land cost, the cost of doing all the entitlement work for getting the property ready, the cost of bringing utilities in. And the reality is, when you do something like this, you've actually placed the burden to be able to have that home sold at a lower price. You've actually caused that then to get added into the price of the other home. So somebody is paying for it. You might even consider this to be kind of like one of those hidden taxes that people have to pay. But it's not just me. The Reason Foundation, there was a study by 2 San Jose professors, and they found that inclusionary zoning increased the price of new homes by $44,000 in the Bay Area. It also increased the price of homes by $66,000 in Los Angeles and Orange counties. A recent census survey shows that San Francisco has over 33,000 affordable units vacant because landlords have found that it costs less to keep the unit vacant than to actually put somebody into it. And that is one of the problems that they currently have with the current regulations that are in place. Inclusionary housing policies are worse than rent control because both set price controls, but with rent control there is the ability to adjust rents when appropriately when it allows to deal with the increased cost and so forth of maintaining properties. But that's not the case with housing, in the case for inclusionary housing. It also doesn't lend itself. I worked on the housing bond, and one of the things that I was telling the advocates for affordable housing was that, but you can't just keep somebody trapped into affordable housing. There was a study done a number of years ago by Marco Fallbaum about how do you distribute the future wealth of California, and one of the things in that study also provided for the idea that in order to help somebody achieve their part of the American dream is to allow them to somehow get into successful home ownership. Well, these kinds of projects, when you do inclusionary zoning like this, they don't allow for the projects to come out. They stay permanently in place there. And what you're really doing is creating a possibility for a ghetto type thing to get created. Rundown neighborhoods, we've seen them all over California. So I would suggest that this isn't the right way to go. I think there's better ways to provide for the affordable housing and particularly the workforce housing that's needed here in California. And, I would suggest a no vote on this. I appreciate the authors, Senator Leno's efforts to try to come up with an affordable housing formula here, but I just don't believe that this is going to work. And it has not been my professional experience that this works either. And this is coming from somebody who actually has no problem trying to do affordable housing and creating housing opportunities for people to be able to better themselves. So I would encourage a no vote on this because it frankly just has proven that it really doesn't do what people claim that it can do.
Senator Strickland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise in opposition to this bill. I do agree with the author on one point. Inclusionary zones are not rent control. Inclusionary zones are actually far worse. And the reason why they're worse is, as Senator Dutton said, that at least in rent control, it provides the landlord the opportunity to reset the rental rates upon a new tenant. This does not. And, the author mentioned a few years ago that things were going robust and they had these inclusionary zones, but the whole housing market was going bust because no one thought that they would lose on these investments, and that's what helped drive our economy down. This is not a good time to bring in a measure like this, and I do think it would be hurtful to getting people into a place to live. And so on those notes, I urge my colleagues to vote no, because this would be far worse than rent control, and I don't even like rent control. So I'm urging my colleagues to vote no on this measure.
Further discussion, members? Seeing none, Senator Leno will close.
Thank you. Again, I began my comments earlier this morning by saying that I wasn't here to debate rent control or to debate inclusionary zoning because I realize we bring our own opinions of those issues to the floor, and I wouldn't challenge you on them. You've got your reasons for opposing them. That's not what this bill is about. This bill is about allowing for local discretion, local control. And I'm glad to hear Senator Strickland reiterate that rent control and inclusionary zoning are two distinct things with different purposes and with different components. But we think that allowing cities and counties to have the ability to make up their own minds. One size does not fit all. The housing needs clearly in San Francisco are different from the housing needs in other parts of the state. And we do have a lot of small and local and rural communities that have established their own inclusionary zoning ordinances because it worked for them locally. And it's put into law by local elected officials who are accountable to their own constituents. The question is, why are we, the state, here to tell local communities how they can plan their own build-outs? Again, for many decades, inclusionary zoning ordinances and local rent controls worked hand in hand. There was harmony. There was no problem. In fact, in all of these many decades, there was only one challenge to it, and that was the Palmer case. So it is because of the local control issue that we have strong support from CSAC as well as the League of California Cities. And additionally, I'd ask you to join with not only local governments, but housing advocates, labor organizations, and building trades and civil rights groups. We were so pleased to have the NAACP offer us their support just the other day. So I'd ask for your aye vote.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. No. Blakesley. No. Calderon. No. Canella. No. Corbett. Aye. Correa. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Dutton. No. Emerson. No. Evans. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. No. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. No. Kehoe.
Aye.
Aye. LaMalfa. No. Leno.
Thank you, sir.
Aye. Ted Lieu. No. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. No. Rubio. Runner. Smidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. No. Vargas. Walters. No. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Wyland. No. Yee.
Call the absent members.
Correa. DeSaulnier. Negrete McLeod. Rubio. Runner. Vargas. Wright. Yee. Yee, aye.
Senator Leno moves a call. Next item, Senator Leno, is item 15. Thank you. And Senator Lowenthal passes on item 16, pass on 17. We'll go back to that later. Senator Corbett, file item 18. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 242 by Senator Corbett, enacting to privacy.
Thank you very much, Madam President. This is SB 242, and this is the Internet Privacy Measure. Today, members, we have an opportunity to do something really important in people's lives. Senate Bill 242 will protect users of social networking Internet sites. It will protect these users from identity theft and from unwanted contact by keeping their private information private, of course, unless they agree to share it, which they'll be able to do under this bill. Senate Bill 242 would require sites to remove personal identifying information about a user. This is not any information, but information that is truly private and truly sensitive, like your home address, your mother's maiden name, your social security number, your bank accounts, those sorts of things that are pieces of information that belong to you. The bill would also allow a parent to request the removal of personal identifying information of their children, who are often completely unaware of the dangers of sharing such information on the Internet. Currently, members, the law does not protect or does not allow a default to privacy. Information that you might share is available to all, unless, of course, you adjust your privacy settings. The bill would further require that privacy settings be in clear and understandable language, and that those settings be set prior to completing a relationship with a network site. Because SB 242 protects users from identity theft and other dangers, such as predators finding you in your home, it has the strong support from law enforcement, from child advocates, from people like the California State Sheriff's Association and the California Police Chiefs Association, the Police Officers Research Association, we call them PORAC, who represent police officers up and down the state of California, Crime Victims United, the Child Abuse Prevention Council, and Common Sense Media. And I'm very, very happy to have the strong support of Sheriff Lee Baca, who believes that this is an important bill. The bill has received a lot of attention in the press and in the halls of the Capitol in the last days and weeks. And as you know, Internet providers and social network sites have fiercely opposed this measure. They have perpetrated many arguments against the bill. And many of these arguments are very predictable. They're arguments we've heard before here in the Capitol. They say that government interference is unnecessary. I thought that was interesting. Up until now, The industry has been completely unregulated, and regulators have been left alone to regulate themselves. Unfortunately, that hasn't worked out very well, and that's why I'm here with this bill today. Common Sense Media has done some polling, and they have found that 85% of parents say they are more concerned about online privacy than they were 5 years ago. 75% of parents don't think social networking sites do a good job of protecting children's online privacy. And 94% of parents say they should be able to request the deletion of all their personal information held by a site. And this is how our constituents feel. A recent policy report by the Federal Trade Commission, touted by the opposition, concludes that industry efforts to address privacy through self-regulation have been too slow and up to now have failed to provide adequate and meaningful protection.
Senator Corbett. Members, can we come to order? Senator Corbett needs your attention. And then we'll move on to discussion.
They also say it's difficult to remove user information upon request. This is the argument that we saw in the San Francisco Chronicle's recent editorial, which creates a compelling case for it. Because once personal information is out, it's out forever, members. So the idea of using private as a default setting on personally identifiable information makes all the sense in the world. They say it will hurt a popular and fast-evolving industry, and I believe that is very short-sighted. In fact, people involved in the industry argue otherwise. SB 242 can help the industry. A new social networking site called MyTimes, which started in California, employs California workers, and is staying in California, supports SB 242. They say that it is important to market private default settings to consumers. According to their spokesman, a potential customer that has voluntarily shared information with a vendor is more likely to trust that vendor and become a repeat customer than one who has been approached out of the blue. Social media is quickly gaining the same reputation as robocall sales pitches and junk mail, and they need to do something about that very quickly. SB 242 goes a long way to fix that, and the social media guys need to wake up, smell the coffee, and get some vision. Again, that's from someone who's in the business. Some people say the bill is unconstitutional. That was very clearly analyzed when this bill was heard in the Judiciary Committee. Here's the facts. SB 242 does not unconstitutionally interfere with interstate commerce. Despite claims, states can regulate business beyond their borders that do business within their state as long as they do not unfairly discriminate against the out-of-state business and they don't place a burden on commerce that outweighs the benefit from the law. Where there is no discrimination and there is a clear benefit, laws are upheld. And Senate Bill 242 does not unconstitutionally interfere with free speech. Senate Bill 242 merely allows a user to control the volume of his or her speech without restricting that speech itself. Moreover, 242 is consistent with the California Constitution's explicit protection of privacy. Members, when you took that oath of office to uphold the California Constitution, that's what it was talking about. Privacy is protected under the state constitution. PC World wrote in its endorsement of Senate Bill 242, I'm sorry, what? How is taking a model that assumes nothing is private and changing it to a system where privacy is granted by default, but users must make informed, meaningful choices to allow their information to be shared, going to undermine privacy? Exactly. Opponents complain that the privacy option should not be chosen when the user first joins the site, but made in the context. There is nothing in the legislation that affects the ability to assure that users have the ability to make their decisions within context. Nothing at all. Another red herring. Members, today I ask for you to join me in protecting people's very important and private personal information. Information that has a huge bearing on the security of their finances and their persons as well. One thing I'd like to say, members, I want to thank all of you who have had the opportunity to engage with most of you on this bill. I've enjoyed the conversations and the discussions. I've enjoyed the concerns that have been shared. And one of the most interesting things I found in these conversations is that many members of the legislature don't even have social network sites because they're concerned about their privacy. So, members, I ask you to join me in supporting this important bill. The discussion will continue long after today, and we'll have the opportunity to talk about concerns you may have, and I'm fully available to address concerns that you have. So, members, I ask for your aye vote on this very important measure.
We'll go to discussion. Senator Vargas.
Thank you, Madam President. Some of the bills that come here are fairly easy for me to vote on. I either like them or don't like them, and I'll either vote for them or not because I don't think that they're going to get better or going to get fixed or anything like that, or they're already fixed and cooked, and I agree with them. This is one of those interesting bills where I agree with what the author is attempting to do. I believe that we do have a right to privacy, and I do think that there's an issue here of safety. All of us have seen the news on the young girls that sometimes, because they're not protected on the internet, end up in the middle of the country somewhere with some bald guy that does terrible things to them. And so we've also seen the people who have lost a lot of their private information, and people have ripped them off. So I think that what my colleague here, the senator, is attempting to do is something that's very noble and very good. However, I don't think it's fully cooked, to be honest with you. But I do think that she should have the opportunity to send this thing forward into the next House to try to work on it to see if they can't come to some agreement. Because we do have to do something on this issue. It's imperative that we do it and we do it right. So I would ask my colleague if she would be willing to take some amendments in the Assembly and allow this bill, if it does get off this floor, to come back here so we can take that second look. If I may ask that question.
Senator Corbett, would you take a question from Senator Vargas?
Absolutely.
My question to you then is the one that I just stated, and I'll restate it. Are you willing to bring this bill back, if it does get off this floor, for amendments in the Assembly, so it has to come back to us and it will not just simply go down to the governor for his signature?
Yes, thank you very much, Senator Vargas. I welcome the opportunity to look at amendments. That has been my stance throughout this process. I've made many contacts with the opposition. Contacts you may have heard of pretty much have been initiated by me to the opposition. And I have actually made commitments to members on this floor on particular amendments with regard to the amount of the fine and those sorts of things. So the long answer is yes, of course.
Thank you. So my understanding is very clear. I expect this bill would come back if it gets off this floor. I would urge my colleagues to take a second look at this bill and to give our colleague an opportunity to work on it. It is an issue that's important to not only to us, but obviously our children. So I would ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Dutton and then Senator Rubio.
Yeah, Madam President, first I have a parliamentary inquiry. When a bill leaves this House, a Senate bill, and goes over to the Assembly to be amended and then it comes back on concurrence, and we don't have the ability to further amend the bill. Isn't that correct?
That was not your question. Your question was
when it comes back from the Assembly, Senator Dutton, it will go to Policy Committee for those amendments to be reviewed. On concurrence, we don't amend.
Okay, so it'd go back to a Policy Committee to be further worked on then at that point?
Further clarification, Senator Dutton. When it comes back amended, it'll go to a Policy Committee for review. If it needs amendments, it must be returned to the Assembly again and then come back to the Senate.
All right. Thank you for that answer. That's one of my concerns. We're in the first year of the two-year cycle right now, and frankly, if there are amendments and things that need to be done, we ought to really be doing it in our House before we send it over to the Assembly. And that would be my suggestion. It's not that I don't necessarily oppose what the objective is here, but as my colleague, Senator Vargas, said, it really isn't fully cooked, and it really should be bettered here in this House before we send it on to the Assembly. So unfortunately, while I don't disagree with the intent, I can't support it because I do feel that it's work in progress at this point.
Senator Rubio and then Senator Strickland.
Thank you, Madam President and colleagues. I share the many concerns that have been brought up on this floor this morning. As someone who is an avid Facebooker or Twitter or someone who loves social networking, there are many parts of this bill that I am not fond of, that I do not like. There are some parts of the bill that I think are appropriate. As a young father who's has a beautiful daughter who's going to grow up to become a teenager, God willing, when she gets on Facebook or Twitter, there are going to be times I'm sure that I'm going to want content removed. And to have the ability to do so, I think, is very important. I know that there are constitutional issues that the author has agreed she will address. Specifically, I'm not a big fan of fines either. Currently, it's $10,000 in the bill, so I do have a question of the author, if I could, Madam President.
Senator Corbett, would you take a question?
Of course.
Go ahead, Senator Rubio.
If I could ask the question that Senator Vargas asked, but perhaps from a different angle, not are you willing to take amendments in the Assembly so that this floor can ultimately determine the fate of this bill in the future? Will you, let me provide a specific amendment that you can commit yourself to adopting so that you do in the Assembly, reducing the fine from $10,000 to $1,000. That is at least one amendment that you will take in the Assembly to ensure that it comes back for concurrence on this floor.
Yes, thank you very much, Senator Rubio. Specifically, I've made that commitment, and I've made that commitment to you. I would be glad to make that amendment and to also further address Senator Dutton's concerns. The commitment is to continue to work on the bill and amend the bill as it moves along through the process, which includes making amendments in the Assembly. Would have been glad to address this amendment if we had had it before deadline in this House as well, but it didn't come up for discussion until now. So the appropriate place to amend it would be in the Assembly. Very glad to do that, and that would allow the bill to come back on concurrence here. And I'm sure if Senator Evans would like to bring it back to her committee for further review, I'd be very glad to do that as well.
Got it. Thank you very much. Madam President, on my own time, then, I would ask colleagues to give Senator Corbett, who's taken on a very gigantic task. This is an evolving sector, a very important one to the state of California. I know that many members, including myself, do not want to negatively impact a very important industry for the state of California. But I rise in support to give the author the ability to work out some of these issues and still provide for this floor to have the ultimate say on whether this bill moves to the governor or not. Thank you.
Senator Strickland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question to the author?
Senator Corbett, another
yes,
question?
Of course. Yes.
Senator, I'm looking at our analysis, and I see opposition, but has Congressman Wiener taken a position on this measure?
If I knew that was going to be the question, I probably wouldn't have said I'd be glad to take a question. I know you mean that in jest. I've had no conversations with Congressman Wiener about anything, nor am I one of his friends.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further, members? Senator Corbett, you may close.
Thank you very much, members. I know that many of you have thought long and hard about this issue. It is an extremely important issue. We all know people who have suffered the heartbreak, financial destruction because of identity theft. We know people, and we've heard stories of young children who have been contacted in inappropriate ways. We know that the Internet, a wonderful, wonderful innovation, unfortunately sometimes is used for not so good reasons. And in fact, we know that our information can escape onto the Internet to be multiplied millions of times, and it's very, very hard to retrieve. This bill puts people back in control of that situation. It allows them the ability to know that their information is private unless they grant the permission for it to be made public. And it also allows parents to do what they do best with their children, to parent and to look out for their children. Members, I'm glad to have continued discussions with you. I'm asking you to please allow me to continue this discussion on this very important issue so that we can address all of the concerns that have been raised. I ask for your aye vote.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. No. Blakesley. No. Calderon. No. Canella. No. Corbett. Aye. Correa. No. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Dutton. No. Emerson. No. Evans. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. No. Hernandez. Huff. No. Kehoe.
Aye.
Aye. LaMalfa. No. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Padilla. Pavley. Aye. Price. No. Rubio. Aye. Runner. Smidian. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. No. Vargas. Aye. Walters. No. Wolk. Aye. Wright. No. Wyland. No. Yee. Yee aye.
Call the absent members.
DeSaulnier. Aye. Hernandez. Negrete McLeod. Padilla. Runner. Smidian. Smidian aye.
Senator Corbett moves a call. Members, we will go on to file item 19, Senator Rubio. The Secretary will, excuse me. Before we go to Senator Rubio, I'll go to Senator Evans. For what purpose, Senator Evans?
Lift the call on SB 444.
Members will lift the call on file item 13. The Secretary will call the absent members.
Berryhill. No. Blakesley. No. Canella. No. Correa. De Leon. Aye. Emerson. No. Huff. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Rubio. Runner. Vargas. Wolk. Wright. No. Yee. Yee aye.
Senator Evans replaces the call. Members, we are at file item 19. The Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 143 by Senator Rubio, an act relating to air pollution.
Senator Rubio.
Thank you, Madam President and members. It is an honor to be able to bring SB 143 to this floor that creates an in-California offset option under the cap-and-trade program that's established by the California Air Resources Board. One of the issues that I have heard with respect to the cap-and-trade model is the fact that many of the offsets could be established outside California. An example may be a province in Canada. This bill simply says that the offsets should be made within California, the benefits should be in California, and the jobs, more importantly, could be created in California, considering our unemployment rate. This bill has been significantly amended. In committee, we addressed the issue of double counting within the cap sector. We certainly do not want to do it, nor was it ever the intent to do so. So we took language from committee to address that particular issue. With that said, I would respectfully ask for your aye vote because I believe this is a win-win for California. It's green, it's good, it creates jobs, and there's a direct benefit to California. Thank
Discussion, members. Any discussion? Seeing none. Senator Pavley.
Yes, question of the author.
Senator Rubio, will you take a question?
Most certainly.
Go right ahead, Senator
Thank you very much. Members, I voted for this on committee. It's sort of a work in progress, but I wanted to ask the author a specific question because it's sort of in the same tone of past bills that needed some work as it worked through the process, and I wanted to know, in regard specifically to double counting and some other issues raised in a letter by many opponents that still seem to be out there, will you be taking an amendment to firm up and quantify the issue of double counting in the Assembly so that this bill will come back to the Senate?
Yes. Madam President, if I could answer.
Yes, of course.
Most certainly, yes, Senator Pavley, and I appreciate you bringing it up. This bill not only will be amended in the Assembly, but I have also agreed that this bill will go back to Senator Simitian's committee when it comes back, should it be able to come back from the Assembly before this floor.
And with that, I will be supporting it on the floor today. I do sit on that particular committee along with some others who will be looking at this carefully. Good luck to you. This is a bill in concept. It's a good idea. The devil's in the details.
Thank you very much.
Senator Simitian.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I just wanted to indicate we did have extensive discussion in committee on this issue. Senator Rubio was asked to take 3 sets of amendments. He agreed to take those amendments. The amendments have been taken. That commitment has been honored, including a double counting amendment. That does not mean, however, that the double counting issue is resolved. It's a difficult and challenging area, as the Senator has already indicated. My committee staff will continue to work with him, and as was mentioned by Senator Pavley, the bill will come back to committee to ensure that that issue has been satisfactorily resolved. I am therefore prepared to be an aye vote on the measure today and would urge my colleagues to do likewise.
Any further discussion? Senator Rubio, would you care to close?
I respectfully ask for your aye vote. Thank you very much.
The Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. No. Blakesley. Calderon. Aye. Canella. Corbett. Aye. Correa. De Leon. Tissandier. Aye. Dutton. No. Emerson. No. Evans. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Harmon. No. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Kehoe.
Aye.
Aye. Lamalfa. Leno. Aye. Tedlu. Carolou. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. Simitian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. No. Vargas. Aye. Walters. No. Wolk. Aye. Wright. No. Wyland. No. Yee. Yee. Aye. Padilla. Aye.
Call the absent members.
Huff, no.
Call the absent members.
Blakesley. Canella. Correa. De Leon. Aye. Hancock. Lamalfa. No. Tedlu. Aye. Carolou. Runner. Blakesley, no. Berryhill, no to aye.
Let's call the absent members.
Canella. Correa. Hancock. Carolou. Runner. Correa, aye.
Noes 23, ayes 23, noes 13. The measure passes. Members, we have just dispensed with the first bill. We've been in session 58 minutes. Everything else is on call, so I would ask us to be mindful of our file today. Next is file item 20, Senator Leno. Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 826 by Senator Leno, enacting to workers' compensation.
Senator Leno.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, I think we can all agree on one thing, that there should be a level playing field for employers who are responsible while ensuring that employees receive adequate workers' compensation benefits. This bill will give the Division of Workers' Compensation the ability it needs to enforce compliance with existing, and I underscore that, existing reporting requirements for the Workers' Compensation Information System. Because it is the single repository for workers' compensation claims information, this system is crucial in evaluating the efficiency and effectiveness of the benefit delivery system, and it also monitors the timely delivery of benefits to injured workers. Though currently about 10 to 25% of the system's data is either incomplete or missing, and the Division of Workers' Compensation is not currently authorized to enforce compliancy with the system's reporting requirements, this bill will correct that problem. The Small Business California is our sponsor, and we've worked to address outstanding concerns, and there is now no opposition. And I want to thank the California Chamber of Commerce, the California Coalition of Workers' Compensation, CSAC, Excess Insurance, California Manufacturers and Technology Association, and the California Association of Joint Powers Association, all of whom, working with us, have now removed their opposition. The bill has had bipartisan support, and I would ask for yours today.
Discussion, members. Senator Anderson.
I rise in support of this bill. Over 25% of the data is not currently being reported. And if we don't have that data reported, then we can't get accurate premiums. So I urge an aye vote.
Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Berryhill. Blakesley. Aye. Calderon. Canella. Corbett. Aye. Correa. De Leon. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Aye. Emerson. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Gaines. Hancock. Harmon. Hancock, aye. Harmon, aye. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. No. Kehoe.
Aye.
Aye. Lamalfa. Leno. Aye. Tedlu. Carolou. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Pavley. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. Smidian. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Vargas. Aye. Walters. No. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Wyland. Aye. Yee.
Call the absent members.
Yee, aye. Strickland, aye. Berryhill. No. Calderon. Aye. Canella. No. Correa. De Leon. Aye. Emerson. No. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Lamalfa. No. Tedlu. Aye. Runner. Smidian. Smidian, aye. Correa, aye.
Ayes 31, noes 8. Measure passes. Next, Senator DeSaulnier. Not at his desk. File item 22, Senator Hernandez. Not at his desk. File item 23, Senator Yee. Members, Senator Yee, do you want to take up 23? Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 397 by Senator Yee, enacting to online voter registration.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Senators, California has lagged behind awaiting the implementation of a statewide online database system called VoteCal. It's been delayed again until at least 2015. California is one of only 9 states now without a statewide tool allowing voters to check their registration status. And California is the only state that does not fully comply with the federal HAVA Act. In the 21st century, especially here in California, it's long overdue to have online voter registration. Currently, Election Code 2196 permits an electronic voters registration system, but only if it's operative within the VoteCal implementation. So what SB 397 will do is to permit the implementation of an online voter registration without waiting for VoteCal. And when you have 6.4 million individuals in California that are not registered, voter registration process should be a catalyst and not a barrier to participation. And so with passage of this bill, hopefully we can get more individuals involved in the electoral process, which is a good thing for all of us here. And with that, urge an aye vote.
Is there discussion, members? Senator Lamalfa.
Oh.
Senator Gaines.
Yes, I rise in opposition to this. It seems to me that we ought to really be focusing on making sure that we can actually identify who voters are in the state of California, like at least requiring a California driver's license to prove that these individuals are who they are as they vote. And so to be taking it a step further in terms of transitioning into an electronic era when we can't even verify who the voters are makes absolutely no sense to me. I urge a no vote.
Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, Senator Yee, you may close.
Many of the experts in this field feel that this process is a more secure process than the current process that we have. Current process, you just go up to a voter registration booth and you fill out the information, you sign that signature, and there's no verification. With online voter registration, there is another official data source, and that's the DMV driver's license database. The applicant's information, their name, address, and DMV number must match in order to complete the registration process, and then the signature from the DMV record is authorized to be used on all voter registration purposes. So with that, there is some security, and so with that, still urge an aye vote.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. No. Blakesley. No. Calderon. Aye. Canella. No. Corbett. Aye. Correa. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. No. Emerson. No. Evans. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. No. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. No. Kehoe.
Aye.
Aye. LaMalfa. No. Leno. Aye. Tedlew. Aye. Carolou. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. No. Vargas. Aye. Walters. No. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Wyland. No. Yee.
Call the absent
Yee,
members.
aye. Correa. Aye. Runner. Wright. Right. Aye.
Ayes 25, noes 14. Measure passes. File item 24, Senator Steinberg.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Before the bill is called, if you could put it up on the...
We'll have the Secretary read.
No need to read, actually.
Okay,
I'd like to make a brief announcement. Members, Madam President and members, one of the most significant bills subject to Friday's deadline to be passed out of the House of Origin is file item 24, Senate Bill 653, which would, of course, extend broad taxing authority to counties, to school districts, to community college districts, and to county offices of education, subject to the voter approval requirements of Proposition 218. As I have said since I introduced this bill, I have one motive: to ensure that there is sufficient funding for public education, health care, and public safety. Given the 2/3 vote requirement for state revenues, Proposition 218, Proposition 26, this bill is one of the few tools to fulfill our most important responsibility. I've also said many times that my preference is to reach an agreement with 2/3 of the membership of the legislature to enact the state tax extensions proposed by the governor. If we can reach this agreement over the next week, which I believe is vital for public education and public safety in this state, I will then not move 653. But clearly, we are not going to reach a handshake agreement on the state tax extension in advance of tomorrow's bill deadline. So today, I am amending the contents of SB 653 into a non-referendable budget trailer bill, SB 23X, so that we can keep this proposal alive and our options open as we hammer out the budget agreement over the next couple of weeks. So 653 will not move, but its contents will be amended into a budget trailer bill, and we will proceed with the budget deliberations over the next week and seek to get the job done. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Steinberg. Senator Woke.
For purposes of introduction,
we will go briefly to privileges of the floor.
I would like to introduce in the gallery a group of 14 to 18-year-old constituents who are here from Lathrop. They're part of Lathrop Youth Focus, and their director, Anna Candelaria, is here. This is an opportunity they compete for educational funding, performance arts, special recognition, and the opportunity to represent their city. Please join me in welcoming Lathrop
Welcome,
Youth Focus.
Lathrop students. Everybody's a Lathrop student? Welcome to your State Senate. Members, Senator Lowenthal passed on file item 16 earlier. We'll return to that item now. The Secretary will read.
Senate Bill 568 by Senator Lowenthal, enacting to recycling.
Senator Lowenthal.
Thank you, members. Thank you, Mr. President, Madam President. SB 568 prohibits a food vendor or restaurant on or after January 1st, 2014 from dispensing prepared food to a customer in an expanded polystyrene foam food container, otherwise known as Styrofoam. SB 568 also allows for local jurisdictions to continue using foam foodware if the jurisdiction elects to have a verifiable recycling program in which 60% of the foam foodware used will be collected and recycled. Expanded polystyrene foam is pervasive in the marine environment. Like most plastics, it is lightweight, floats. When littered, it is easily carried from streets, becoming trapped in our storm drains, and then making its way out into the ocean. 60 to 80% of all marine debris and 90% of floating debris are plastic. Study of beach debris at 43 sites along the Orange County coast found that styrofoam was the second most abundant form of beach debris. Expanded polystyrene is not biodegradable, which means that in the marine environment, when the container breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces, it never disappears, and it is easily mistaken for food by marine animals, which can cause irreparable harm. City of Long Beach alone spends over $3 million annually to clean out its storm drains and beaches. Foam foodware is one of the most abundant forms of debris in its drains and on the beaches. Today, very little styrofoam food servicing is recycled in California because foam foodware is contaminated from food residue. Recycling is very limited. Foam food service packaging, by its very nature, only has a useful life that can be measured in minutes or hours. Yet after centuries, it does not decompose in a landfill. 50 jurisdictions in California, including Alameda, Burlingame, Capitola, Haywood, Oakland, Malibu, Laguna Beach, Seaside, the counties of Monterey and Ventura, have all successfully banned foam foodware. Additionally, outside of California, the cities of Seattle, Portland have recently banned foam foodware. All of these jurisdictions' food vendors provide their takeout in alternative packaging, including paper, plastic, compostable materials, aluminum foil, etc., all of which are approved for use in the food service by the FDA and widely used in food service industry. While local actions have proved successful, state action is far more preferable. This is a statewide problem that warrants a statewide solution. Many of you members may be aware of the recent Los Angeles Times editorial which supported SB 568 with the suggestion that the compliant state be extended out. After many discussions with other members, I'm willing to make that commitment. Once this bill is in the Assembly, I will amend the bill to push the compliance date out an additional 2 years, out to 2016, 5 years for municipalities and 6 years for school districts, giving manufacturers and businesses more time to ramp up production of alternative products, and for cities and school districts that want to recycle, the time to develop their programs. SB 568 has a vast coalition of support, including local chambers of commerce, cities and counties, sanitation districts, labor, restaurant owners, and numerous environmental groups. I ask for your aye vote.
Discussion, members. Senator Berryhill.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Members, news today, headlines today, signs point to faltering recovery. This bill in Lodi, just one company in my district, if this bill goes through, this company will go bankrupt. It loses 100 good-paying jobs, and in Lodi, that's devastating. The products that we're talking about and the products that are a problem are not the fast food styrofoam that we drink right here in these coffee cups in this building. It's the styrofoam that is around TVs and appliances and whatnot. You get bags of this stuff. It gets torn up by the dogs. You try to clean it up, but you wash it off. That's the stuff that gets down into the drain and that goes into the rivers and ends up on your coastal members' shores. I get that. But these kind of companies that are recycling at almost 100% are actually producing products for houses, permanent products, that are good for the economy, that create jobs. As we sit here today, folks, regulations in this state are estimated at around $500 billion, which is 5 times what our state budget is, and which is a perfect example why real regulatory reform in this state should include exhaustive economic impact analysis of each new regulation, because this one's going to cost money. I can't tell you all the costs of this bill, but I can tell you a couple things that this will cost in my particular district. 1, 100 full-time employees in the Lodi area. 2, DART's $5 million in payroll. $19.9 million paid to California-based vendors. This is going to affect everybody all the way down the line. $2.6 million paid in state and local taxes. Taxes that, quite frankly, this state needs and should be encouraging right now. This bill will limit consumer choice. The food chains estimate that replacement products for styrofoam in these packages will cost 200% to 300%. Members, that all trickles down to the blue-collar worker that's right now fighting for a job and trying to feed their families. We should be encouraging companies like DART and giving them incentives to do more recycling, give more incentives to do recycling of the styrofoam that is really doing the damage, getting out to the oceans. We should be giving incentives to recycle that product so they too can use it for permanent use. This bill is wrong, certainly, for my constituents in Lodi. It's bad for the state. It is. The chamber has labeled it a job killer. It's not good policy. I urge a no vote.
Continued discussion. Senator Emerson.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I represent Riverside County, and the inland Southern California region has the highest unemployment in the nation. This company that does this recycling hires over 500 of my residents in my district. This would be a disaster, and this would eliminate the recycling efforts that are going on now. This bill is bad for business. This is bad for our environment, and I urge a no vote.
Anything further, members? Seeing none, Senator Dutton.
Yeah, Madam President, I too have to rise in opposition to this bill. You know, it wasn't too long ago that on a 40-0 vote, we actually passed SCR 24, proclaiming the month of May as the Small Business Month, and yet we have something like this that frankly is going to actually hurt a lot of small businesses who aren't really doing anything wrong with the environment. I also find it kind of humorous, well, not humorous, but it's kind of interesting that DART Container down in Lodi was the subject of an ad by an assembly member who used the fact that these jobs were saved as a result of their effort of making sure that people knew how DART was environmentally friendly and so forth, and yet now we're going to do something that's actually going to probably put them out of business. You know, we don't have that many companies here. One of the things I think that's bothered a lot of us, and just like when you take a look at the coffee cup right here, it says products Boulder, Colorado. Well, I'd rather be buying them from a company out of Lodi or something of that nature. What we ought to be doing is figuring out ways to enable these companies to stay here, produce the products that we want to have introduced into the environment, instead of coming up with more regulatory hurdles that are actually going to cause a lot of problems. Like I said, we have businesses in our local area that are environmentally friendly. They're doing the best they can. a bill like this is actually going to make it even tougher for them and possibly cost us loss of jobs within our private sector. I would urge a no vote.
Senator Pavley.
Yes, I just thought I would rise and enter in this discussion. I voted on this bill and looked at it carefully, and what this bill will allow doing, especially with that extra time period, is the following. This bill is not a choice between a healthy environment and a sound economy and the jobs that come with it. This is about a win-win for California. These same plants that people are concerned about, either one, already manufacture alternative products that meet the requirements in Senator Lowenthal's bill, or can easily transition. This is not new science. Someone just said Boulder, Colorado manufactures them. Well, so do some of the companies right here in California, more environmentally friendly packaging. They can easily meet the guidelines, keep all the jobs within the time period, extended, as Senator Lowenthal has suggested, to 5 years or longer, and accommodate what is a growing environmental problem costing jobs and businesses in many parts of California. That's why you see a whole bunch of hotels and restaurants and cities and other areas where it's subjected to litter and problems along 1,100 miles of our scenic coastline. It's also an issue in our lakes and other tourist areas. This is a win-win, a very thoughtful approach, and all of you know Senator Lowenthal is one of the best in the business as far as bringing people together, coming up with a consensus, and how to accomplish these mutual goals of preserving jobs, a sound economy, and also helping the environment. I ask for your aye vote.
Senator Gaines.
Yeah, I rise in opposition, and I don't think the transition into a different type of technology for manufacturing of these products is necessarily realistic. It surely comes with cost, and I'm not hearing any opportunities by the state of California to pick up the cost of these small employers for any necessary transition to occur. Again, the focus seems to be in the wrong area. I don't know why we're not going after the people that are littering, that are creating all the challenges that we have on the coast. It's not the manufacturer, it's how those items are dealt with when they've been used, and they need to be properly thrown away. So I urge a no vote.
Anything further, members? Senator Lowenthal, you may close.
Thank you. I'm not going to describe the overall need. I think I already have for this. I just want to answer some of the questions that were raised. The issue about job loss is a very serious one, and I think needs to be dealt with. I think that first we have to understand that the two manufacturers of foam products in California, Pactiv or Dart, are the largest manufacturers also of alternative products. In their letter of opposition, interesting, that Pactiv wrote, they talked about having, before this bill, having to close plants in California due to, as I read in their own letter of opposition, the closures, and they talked about having already closed a plant in California and maybe having to close one more, not about this bill, already, is due to customer deselection of our products. That is true. People do not want foam. They have moved tremendously into this into the making of alternative products that are compostable and also biodegradable and can be recycled. They have not moved in this direction. Also in California, we have both Biosphere, which is in Senator Strickland's district, and right here in Sacramento, we have the Hutamaca plant, which is also one of the major producers of alternative compostable products for food servicing. We are moving in this direction. We are giving enough time for manufacturers to kind of move towards the ability to produce alternatives, plus cities to be able to continue. This is not a ban. This says that if a city has an effective recycling program, you can continue. And we are allowing that to happen by extending this out until 2016. This is an appropriate bill. It will not hurt California businesses. It will protect our communities. I urge an aye vote.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. No. Blakesley. Aye. Calderon. No. Canella. No. Corbett. Aye. Correa. No. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Emerson. No. Evans. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Hernandez. Huff. No. Kehoe.
Aye.
Aye. LaMalfa. No. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Runner. Smidian. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. No. Vargas. Walters. No. Wolk. Wright. Wyland. No. Yee.
Call the absent members.
Yee. Aye. Dutton. No. Harmon. Hernandez. Ted Lieu. Aye. Rubio. Runner. Smidian. Aye. Vargas. Wolk. Wright.
Senator Lowenthal moves a call. That item is on call. Members, we are going to recess for 1 hour. We will return at 12:30, and there's some lunch outside. We're in recess.